Here's the brief news from the world over this week. In a major foreign policy about-face, President Barack Obama announced plans Thursday to keep nearly 10,000 U.S. troops in Afghanistan through most of next year. 5,500 will remain when he leaves office in 2017. The new commitment contravenes his 2012 campaign promise, repeated at his 2013 State of the Union address, to end the war in Afghanistan on his watch. He said the extended deployment is for both counter-terrorism efforts and the training of Afghani security forces and does not change its mission. Afghanistan has been a surge, or seen a surge, in jihadi violence this year, as well as military gains by al-Qaeda and an influx of ISIS militants. Also announced this week, the president is sending 300 U.S. troops to Cameroon to assist in that country's fight against the jihadist group Boko Haram. Back in the United States, the Democratic Party held its first presidential debate on Tuesday in Las Vegas. In the much-anticipated showdown between frontrunner Hillary Rodham Clinton and Senator Bernie Sanders, there were clashes on economic and foreign policy, as well as gun control. Sanders was forced to defend his more centrist approach to gun control and his leftist economic policy. The former Secretary of State had to defend her 2002 Senate vote for the Iraq War. At another point, Clinton suggested that illegal immigrants should be eligible for Obamacare benefits, and she minced no words in her support for Planned Parenthood.
Having big government to interfere with a woman's right to choose and to try to take down Planned Parenthood, they're fine with big government when it comes to that. I'm sick of it.
Meanwhile, Planned Parenthood's controversial fetal tissue procurement program will continue. However, the abortion giant says it will no longer accept payment for procuring baby body parts. The policy change was made in an apparent response to a series of undercover videos released by the Center for Medical Progress. Planned Parenthood maintains they have done nothing illegal. In a letter to the National Institutes of Health delivered on Tuesday, Cecile Richards, the president of Planned Parenthood, wrote that the policy change is to prevent the abortion giant from being attacked by those who want to, quote, advance an anti-abortion political agenda, end quote. Nothing in the letter indicated that the fetal body part program would be changed in any other way. And according to a new poll, Pope Francis's recent visit to the United States has generated some goodwill for the Catholic Church, but not necessarily for the Pope himself. According to the Pew Research Center, of those surveyed just after the Pope's visit to Washington, New York, and Philadelphia, 28% said they have a more positive view of the Church because of Pope Francis. That view was more pronounced among Democrats and self-identified liberals, 35% and 39% of whom had a more positive view of the Church following the papal visit. Americans generally continued to view the Pope positively, 70% favorable earlier this year, 68% after the visit. Curiously, though, and this is odd, Pope Francis lost ground among Catholics. He is down nearly 10 points from a high of 90% earlier this year. The drop was steeper among those who attend Mass at least weekly. More favorable or not, the U.S. visit did come at a cost. The final tally, $45 million was spent in Philadelphia alone to host the Pope, and only 143,000 people attended the final Mass on the Ben Franklin Parkway, according to the Philadelphia Inquirer. That was far short of the projected million or so expected before his arrival. Meanwhile, one American prelate is not waiting around for direction from the Synod on the Family regarding Holy Communion for divorced and remarried Catholics and others. Archbishop John Myers of Newark, New Jersey, issued guidelines on who can and cannot receive communion in his diocese this week. In a two-page memo titled Principles to Aid in Preserving and Protecting the Catholic Faith in the Midst of an Increasingly Secular Culture, he reminds clergy that Catholics who are married must be in a valid marriage to receive communion. Moreover, Catholics who publicly reject church teaching and discipline may not receive communion. The memo also orders parishes and Catholic institutions not to endorse or support those who reject or ignore church teaching and canon law. A spokesman for the Archdiocese says that given the media buzz surrounding hot-button issues, Archbishop Myers saw this as an appropriate moment to ensure that priests and faithful alike adhere to established Catholic teaching. And back in Pope Francis's native Argentina, pro-abortion protesters turned violent outside the Cathedral of Mar del Plata. The predominantly female activists, many of them topless, assaulted a group of men who stood praying, locked arm in arm, blocking the entrance to the cathedral. The women painted their chest with phrases such as, "I had an abortion and I chose," or "I choose," and shouted, "The church is a piece of trash, you're a dictatorship." At one point, they attempted to set it on fire. Police eventually stepped in. And finally, a couple of well-known biblical stories made the news this week. Archaeologists in southern Jordan have unearthed the ruins of what could be the notorious Old Testament city of Sodom. A decade of digs at the site has revealed what remains of a large Bronze Age city-state. It thrived around 3500 BC and was suddenly abandoned. Sodom and Gomorrah were destroyed by God as punishments for the city's sinful ways. The connection isn't yet definitive, but experts say the site's location and size closely fit the biblical description of Sodom. Meanwhile, on the outskirts of Jerusalem, the holy site where Jesus brought Lazarus back from the dead is itself being resurrected. Lazarus' tomb has long been a pilgrimage destination. Underneath the modern churches built on the site lie ruins of buildings that archaeologists describe as pages of history. Churches, a convent, and even a mosque have occupied that site since the 4th century. After being abandoned for years, the most ancient part of the church compound is badly in need of repair and restoration. The Catholic Church is heading up the project. Custos of the Holy Land, Father Pier Battista Pizzaballa, said the Church stepped in 2 years ago to preserve the site due to its religious significance in the life of Jesus Christ.